I am so excited to be back on the East Coast. Here we are in Washington, D.C. for our favorite HackerCon. It's Shmoocon. 7 years now, can you believe it? And we're having such a blast. This is the HackerCon where you see the brightest minds in our community. And we had the pleasure of speaking to so many of them this week. So we thought, we had so many last week, we had so many this week. It's just, such good stuff. I hope you guys really enjoy it. I will see you guys on the other side.
Yeah, hook me up, I'm ready.
This episode of Hak5 is brought to you by The Ben Heck Show, building, modding, and electronics culture, brought to you exclusively by Element 14. GoToAssist Express, support smarter with GoToAssist Express. And Domain.com, got a great idea? It all starts with a great domain, Domain.com.
What exactly would you do to my phone to turn it into a zombie on your botnet?
Well, most likely it would actually be, what would you do?
Oh, what would I do?
You as the user would download an application that has a built-in vulnerability that can be exploited or takes advantage of something in the operating system. Same way with the PC. It's a lot of the same attack vectors. A lot of what you see is client-side, and that would be the main attack vector for any sort of malware on the phone as well.
You're right. So you see so much more client-side than like a remote exploit on Android. How do you just put something in the marketplace?
Put it in the marketplace or outside the marketplace. There have been applications in the past where it's like, we can't put this on the marketplace because it's so awesome. Download it and install it directly as root, and then you don't even have to do any exploitation. It's all about fooling the user into thinking this is worth the risk.
Right. I mean, you don't really get a whole lot of warning either when you install an application on Android. It just tells you, oh, it wants to be able to use your phone, wants to be able to open your contacts.
And when you're talking about exploitation, though, I could make an application that doesn't say I need to use SMS or I need to use your phone, and then once it takes advantage of a vulnerability and exploits and then has root, it doesn't make an API call. It works in the base OS, so you wouldn't know that I was using SMS at all. So even those security functionalities wouldn't apply.
Well, what if I hadn't rooted my phone? I mean, granted, if you got it into the marketplace and it's not like an APK that you would download separately, so you don't have to like tell them, oh, go into enable debug mode or enable third-party sources. But what if I'm just a regular Joe user? I don't have a rooted phone. I get your application from the marketplace. Is it game over?
Well, if your phone has a vulnerability locally, then yes. Like for instance, the SynPage kernel exploitation was actually 2009, but people still haven't upgraded, and that worked on Android as well.
Well, what versions?
I believe it was 2.9 and below.
2.9?
Yeah.
2.9. I think 2.2 is Froyo. 2.3 is...
I must be thinking the European versions.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But so even modern versions though, well, it's sad though because so many carriers don't upgrade. I mean, I'm stuck on Eclair because Samsung won't get around to
exactly.
hook me up with Froyo.
It doesn't upgrade very quickly. So even if a security patch is put out, a lot of your users won't get it immediately. So there's a large window of opportunity there if something is found.
All right. So once you've got it on the phone and it uses an exploit like you were talking about, what are you talking about? The base layer of the phone? I don't get that because wouldn't I, detect? Oh, hey, it's accessing my contacts or doing whatever it's doing, right?
No, all that's based on the Java API calls in your user space stack, but underneath there's, on Android anyway, it's really just Linux down there, kind of dumbed down, and iPhone, Mac OS is down there, and then there's Windows Mobile's a Windows platform. It also makes it really easy for malware writers to move into the realm of smartphones because it's very similar to what they've been doing on PC. Just program it in C and compile it with an ARM compiler, and you can do all the same things, except you have a GSM modem that you can take advantage of. So it's just extra functionality with less security and little PC in your pocket.
Well, yeah, but it's like totally different though because it's it's mobile. It's like not and more mobile than like on the scale of like a laptop because this guy is always on.
Right, exactly. It's always on, and you can think of a smartphone as like a server, public IP, no firewall, no filtering, security of 15 years ago. Because your phone number is basically a public IP that anybody can access through the GSM modem. Like, For instance, if I sent you
get
an
that.
email,
Yeah.
it would go to spam. If spam filtering's gotten pretty good, but if I send you a spam text message with a link that says, here, go download this, you're going to receive that message. It's up to you whether you click on it, but you receive every message.
Well, yeah.
So it's a
'cause
new way to
it's
do
like email.
spam.
Well, it's like email in the sense that, you don't have to, it's not like, if we were Facebook friends,
Right.
you could only message me if we were friends on Facebook. Email is like an open system, and you're right, the phone system is based on an inherent trust that you only give your phone number to people you know. Otherwise, why would they be calling you? I mean, eventually, sometimes you get the oh, sorry, wrong number, right? But, I mean, aside from that, nobody calls you that doesn't know you. Yeah,
Well, I mean, numbers are possible to be gotten.
Okay.
You put your phone number in when you go to a website and sign up to order
So you're
pizza or
saying,
something.
So are you saying that you use the phone number as your method of controlling your zombies on your botnet?
Actually, I do have the phone numbers of all the zombies. The master would, but none of the other zombies know any numbers. It's all different cryptography, a public-private key system, because if a single zombie is compromised by a security researcher,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want them to be able to find out anything else about the botnet. So no numbers are stored
Oh, okay. Well, how do you communicate with the zombies?
through SMS.
Well, then wouldn't I just, notice that I have, a text message saying, turn on camera, locate GPS. I mean, I'm assuming those are the kind of the functions that
Not at all. You would not see those messages because I have my botnet program sitting in the base OS level. It works as a proxy between the GSM modem and the application layer and sees all the GSM traffic that goes through, and is thus able to authenticate messages as part of the botnet. This is a botnet instruction. It's from a valid master, and then it just swallows the message, does the functionality. The user never sees it. If it's a regular text message or a phone call or anything, it just goes straight on through, so the user won't notice anything is up.
How do you filter the text messages before they come through?
It just sits at the proxy. Basically, it sits, we have the modem, I have pictures in my talk, and then there's the serial line that connects to this user space, and I just stick a little proxy layer in here, so when the message comes in, it hits me first. I'm like, what is this? And send it up if it's not mine, and grab it and not send it up if it is, and tell the modem it was received, and everybody thinks everything's fine.
Aren't there text messages that are like that anywhere that carriers use? And there was a big talk about that a couple Black Hats ago, where there was they would show up on your iPhone as like a couple of squares or something. But it was exploiting, I forget the name of them, but they're basically SMS messages used for control that the carrier uses rather than for, hey, what's up?
Yeah, it goes to a local port on the phone that tells the phone what to do, yeah.
Can you do those? Can you craft those?
Yes, it's a very similar method of what I'm trying to do there.
What are those called?
I believe something about port.
They're like control messages.
Yeah, they're control messages, but they go to a port on the phone. Yeah, I looked at.
So do you use those, or do you just send it in a regular SMS?
I just send it in a regular SMS.
So do you just send the commands from your phone?
From any, you.
Well, I mean,
it
not your
doesn't-
phone,
right.
but you'd want to be a little sneakier.
Right, prepaid SIMs, stealing phones, Google Voice, Skype, a GSM modem hooked up to a computer. Possibilities are really endless. If you can send
This is
text
phone
messages,
freaking. This is totally phone freaking.
Yes, it is. We've gone full circle because there are estimated to be 2 billion cell phones in the world by 2012, and that's a lot. Everybody's going to have one, and they're getting more powerful every day.
And it's always on and it's always on you, and it has so many capabilities. Like, what are some of the capabilities of your botnet?
Well, what I'm actually going to be demoing is I'm going to send spam messages. It can also do DDoS, but I don't really like to show that because it's a
DDoS
big
is
thing
it
right
only
now.
has one.
Yeah.
It only has one purpose: being malicious.
Yeah, that's not as fun to show.
Yeah, spam's good
it's
for
more
client sides.
interesting to show. It's more interesting for the crowd to see the spam. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to have the master phone and then the slave phone and then some random phone that's going to receive the message. It's from the master. I write to the slave, send it a message, and telling it to send spam. Nothing shows up on the slave phone because the proxy grabs it. But then
even when it sends out the spam, it doesn't show up in their sent box or anything.
Nope.
Nice.
It's all done from below all of that, and then it'll show up on the other phone that's just there. But it'll be received from the slave phone. I put them all in the address books together, so it'll say like slave bot and master bot. So
what about some of the other underlying features of the phones? Because you're talking about Android in specific with this. all Android phones, or at least most, have cameras. You know, all phones have microphones. All
Right.
most phones nowadays have Bluetooth and GPS.
Well, the code I'm releasing is going to be under GPL, and I've taken all the payloads out, but people can make their own. So if that's something you want to do, turn on the microphone, turn on the camera, those would definitely be within scope of what I've done. You just need to hook up the API call and the payload.
And that's crazy to think that it's not something where it's like, oh, you've got to, burn this custom ROM. It's just an application that takes advantage of a vulnerability. So
Right.
the vector of attack is much wider than, I don't know. I'm just always a little paranoid about, and I know Cyanogen must be a great guy, but some of those, you see them on the XDA forums and stuff. Oh, check out this ROM image. You
Yeah.
know, when you install a ROM image,
Right,
from someone.
Right, someone, if you download their ROM image after tomorrow, could have my botnet code already in it.
Yeah.
'Cause-
And then
so-
they could be using your phone to send SMS spam.
Yep, straight up, just like that.
Nice.
Never know about it.
Now, what about other platforms? Is it just Android right now?
Well, I had an Android, so that was what I worked on. But since I've started getting some press about this, I now have 3 Android phones. So if someone gives me an iPhone, I've written the iPhone code, but I haven't tested it because it doesn't have the same emulator kind of things. And it's hard to emulate with the GSM modems anyways, because the emulators don't hook up differently because they're not a real modem. So if I get an iPhone, I will test my iPhone code and release it. But the same thing will work for Windows mobile platforms and iPhone.
Well, just what are you saying? Like the underlying, the principle of it,
The principle of using the proxy and grabbing messages, that will work. I have tested it that much that I know that it will work. It's just writing the code. The naming scheme is a little different on each platform, and then you have to code it a little differently. But yeah.
What about the carriers? Isn't there something that they can do to thwart this? Can they say, oh, well, all of the spam that are coming from these zombified phones have the same SMS header, and we're just going to block that at the source or something, right?
Well, the SMS headers will actually look the same as any other message. So as they do that, they could indeed crack down on whatever they wanted. That's a lot of. On the flip side, it's only the carriers who can see these messages. It's not like IP where you put logging on your firewall and then all the packages coming in and out.
Well, is there something that you might be able to Is there not software for Android that'll allow you to see what's going on under the hood in that regard, a packet sniffer of some sort? I mean, I've always thought there's all of these applications that you get, and you just say I agree whatever when you install them. And they could be phoning home, and
Right.
some have been discovered to have been.
Right, I talk about that as well, but that is something I talk about for mitigations. A small tripwire at the base OS level, because the phone could just say, you don't need to be doing that, because your end users, a lot of them aren't going to be fooling around in the OS. Not everybody roots it, so if it sees a change in the OS, wave a red flag there, something's up, and alert someone. So that would be one way. Also, the carriers would need to be in on any takedowns of cell phone botnets over GSM, because they're the only ones seeing it. So
Could you spread the worm by SMS somehow? Could you send payloads to other phones?
One way, the SMS spam, put a link in it, hey, click on this.
Just
Same
like
client
a
sign.
just like a regular client
Exactly.
sign. Yeah.
And also, there have been examples of remote exploits that led to root iPhone. The IKB was one. So it happens.
Yeah, and especially when you're sending it from someone else's phone,
Right.
does the SMS message show up as from their phone number?
Yes.
Well, then you
So it's
already
very
have their
hard to
inherent trust.
Right.
So if you have it send to, say, everyone in
In
their
the contact list, then they'll.
yo, I just found the coolest game. It's way better.
Exactly,
It's like
yes.
Tetris, but on crack. You got to try it.
So it's likely they will then click on it, and it's the same as PCs. They're a lot
You're right.
like
This
PCs.
is like
This
Outlook
is where we're going.
macro spam from the 90s.
Exactly, it is. It's like security has gone back to the old days, because now we have this
Well,
phone that's like the old server.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
firewalls, no filters. We don't have any of that technology for it yet, and it's coming into its own. Everybody's using it. It's like a computer now.
Yeah.
We just aren't in the same level with security. We don't have as much experience with it, and new technologies with the GSM. So hopefully my talk tomorrow will help get some more conversations started on that.
Yeah, that's absolutely mind-boggling. It makes me so happy as, somebody who grew up with like the red boxes and the beige boxes and stuff, to see it come around again, freaking having a resurgence just because our phones are getting so sophisticated. But it really is hacking. It's just, whatever the device may be. And that's just so cool. Where do you see it going next with the botnet stuff? I mean, you're just doing this as proof of concept?
Right.
You're doing this for your
I'm
company?
doing this as proof of concept, hopefully, to get people thinking about, if I can do this, bad guys can do it too.
And can you write something that would mitigate this? Could you write a piece of software for Android that would check to make sure that you haven't been owned?
Yes. I could write something very similar, use the code that does the attacking to do the defending. If the attacker can watch, the defender can watch too. So, yes, I could write something to mitigate this particular attack, but as that gets mitigated, a new attack,
Well, that's how it goes.
That's
it's
how
all
it
back and
goes,
forth.
yeah.
Oh, so is this open source?
It is, yes. I'm releasing it under GPL tomorrow.
Where can people get their hands on it?
They can get it at my website. It's grmnoobs, grmnoobs with zeros and not O's.com, which I'm putting that out tomorrow. My talk is at noon, so it'll be up, I think, right before then or right after.
Very, very cool. Well, thank you so much for talking
Thank
to us.
you.
It's been a pleasure.
As you guys know, there are a variety of tools on the market that will allow you to do remote assistance on another person's computer. But the only one that I rely on is GoToAssist Express, brought to you by Citrix. The reason? Well, the exceptional performance, the ease of use, and the security. There's no IT maintenance or updating required. It's fast. You'll be viewing your client's computer and troubleshooting in just seconds. Plus, it supports clients' computers even when they're away from their desk. You can try GoToAssist Express free for 30 days. For this special offer, you must visit gotoassist.com/hak5. Again, that's gotoassist.com/HAK5 for a free trial.
For those that are not familiar with Katana, can you tell me a little bit of background about it?
I can. It's a multi-boot tool. So basically you put a bunch of different distros and you can boot during, once you've actually loaded the USB, plug in USB, boot from one of 10 possibly, or 12, or it's up a lot more now. Very many options for different distros. And that's one side, and that's the side people seem to focus on a lot, but there's actually another side of a bunch of Windows tools. I have probably about 300-ish Windows tools on there, so you basically pop in your thumb drive and you can load them automatically without installation. So that gets really fun for quick stuff on any PC.
What are some of the tools that you have on there?
I have the basic stuff like some Firefox and OpenOffice for whatever, but I have a lot of other tools. I finally got Metasploit working on the USB drive, and I hadn't seen that anywhere else before, and it's a little bit of a pain to get working, but it does work on there, so you can load Metasploit into whatever computer you're on, and then take that route. It's a little slower, but
so other than recently putting Metasploit on there, what else is new with Katana since we did our segment on it?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I've added is actually a new application called Forge, which allows you to add new distros with a point-and-click interface.
Ooh.
Before there was the forum,
Easy.
I know. Before there was the forum, and there were like 12 posts, and this is the correction for this new version, and it was a big pain, and you had to manually do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And nobody was happy. I wasn't happy because I had to go back when I was updating it and do that. It's like, this is not right. So I decided to try to write some bash scripts to automate the process. So what it is, it's like a front end for a bunch of bash scripts. So you download the ISO image and you click, this is the version I want to install, this is the image, this is where my drive is, and go. And then you wait for a couple minutes, and then poof, it's on there. So the next time you load it up, you've got whatever new distro you want.
Easy portable apps.
Yes, yes.
How'd you get started?
Well, actually, I had, I'm sure everybody has this. You have the case of bootable whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's got that case.
Discs and discs and discs, or flash drives.
And you have that, exactly. When you guys talked about it, it's the flash drives and discs. And so, you loan them out to people, or you have this case, and this is the one for work, and this is the one for home, and it becomes a big pain.
Yeah.
So I got tired of losing the one that I wanted, so I was like, how can I get this all on a flash drive to make it easy? And the first way I released a beta, and it's the kind of thing I did it all wrong. It worked, but it was all wrong.
It was all wrong?
It was all wrong.
How so?
You had to manually change a lot of stuff. Like, in order to boot into the other one, you had to boot into whatever one was default, change some file configurations, and then reboot into whatever one you wanted.
Yeah, that's a pain in the
So it's a
ass.
big pain. It was really a big pain. So I had to figure out how to change that around a bit. So this makes it quite a bit easier.
Yes, a lot
easier.
Did you have any like inspirations for when you created Katana?
It was mostly just to save myself some time.
Understandable.
To get the multi-boot, no, I hadn't really seen anything to get it working on one partition was the big thing for me, because I hate having that wasted space, because you know when you have your Windows and Linux partition on there, you've got all this, you have to partition it out, and you've got all this space that you're not sure what you're going to use later on.
Right.
And I didn't want to have, that was an easy way out, was just a partition, but if you're going to have 12 distros on there, you have 12 little partitions on your flash drive, and that's kind of cumbersome.
Yes.
So having one flash drive, all the space you need and everything on there running live or however you want it was a lot easier. Keep it in your pocket. You've got your all-in-one suite of tools.
Did you use any other like multi-boot security suite type things, or is this the only one?
This is
the only one you've
There
ever
are other
seen?
ones out there. This is the only one I've seen for USB. So there were a couple people who had packaged them together to boot from like a DVD or CD, but I really wanted a dynamic environment.
Yeah, nobody even uses DVDs anymore.
Yeah, we all moved to Blu-ray, right? Everything I have is Blu-ray, obviously.
Right?
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't have money for that kind of stuff.
I don't either. But I really want it to be a dynamic environment, and that's one thing that I'm still trying to push to people, is that you can configure it on the fly. Whereas the CD, okay, maybe you create a new image, you burn it, you have your cool new tools, but then, as soon as you get an update, you have to reburn everything.
Yeah.
So this option, you can just update all your tools however you want, and it's dynamic and it's there.
Sweet.
And, the new version of Backtrack comes out, you just plop it on.
Oh, that's
You're good to
nice.
go. It just
Yeah.
takes however long it is to extract the
That's nice
ISO.
and easy.
Yeah,
oh,
very
that's
easy.
cool. So do you have any future goals for your project?
Well, I have, as I mentioned, the installation stuff is for Linux only right now, because I'm pretty good with Bash scripting, but Batch and the Windows environment is not quite as easy to work with, and I've been talking to some people trying to figure out how to get that
Hence
working.
why everybody uses Linux.
Yeah, of course, everybody, all the viewers use Linux, and are masters of Linux.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a pain.
Including me.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So I'm trying to convert that over to the Windows side, because to automate the installation of stuff on Windows would obviously be a big benefit to a lot of people.
Well, that's good for me, because that's all I use is Windows, really. I'm not a huge Linux user, so.
So you can install Katana in whatever distro, but during the updates,
Katana,
but the other option is to like boot into one of the distros and then install additional ones there. So like boot into Backtrack and then use it that way. But yeah, more Windows side stuff.
Okay.
And try to get a bigger tool base for the, it's called the Katana Toolkit is the Windows application that'll launch all that stuff.
So that kind of works into my next question. Like, where do you see Katana going in the next couple of years?
I really did want it to be an all-in-one portable kind of, doing pen testing and stuff. You can just get a computer. Somebody gives you a computer. You've never touched it before. You have your thumb drive, and you go from there. So it's not like I'm writing lots of tools. I'm trying to gather the tools to make it into however I can get a portable environment together, and then just hand it off to you, and you can configure. You can say, oh, I don't want all the forensic stuff, or I don't need all the pen testing stuff. And I really want to make it as dynamic as possible, so that you
so
get
you're still
a big
working
thing.
on it to this day.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it takes
Put
it's
in
a
quite
lot.
a few hours.
Yeah, every distro, and then like the new version of Ubuntu comes out, and the way I had to install it before doesn't work at all. So I have to like refigure
have to
it out.
upgrade everything.
And then different distros switch from different, like the new version of Backtrack switch from Slack to Ubuntu. So it's, having to switch all that up, so it does.
Damn all those upgrades.
I know,
it's like
every time
jailbreaking
it's
your
like,
iPhone.
yeah, there's a new
Same
version.
problem.
Oh no, I have to go fix it. I have to go
fix it
change the
again.
script. Yeah.
So is this open source? Can our viewers work on it at all, or?
It's weird to say because I'm mostly using stuff from other people. The biggest help I need is if anybody's got a distro out there that they want for me to add, get in contact and I can help them so that we can automate the installation.
Okay.
Things like that, or suggestions for tools, portable tools to put on there. But as far as like coding is concerned, I'm mostly stealing most of these things. I'm not really. I'm just packaging them together. I know. I'm not stealing them, but I'm not taking credit for the ideas. Like I put Firefox on there. I made Firefox. No, I'm just packaging stuff together. But yeah, especially the distros. If people out there want to help with that, that would be.
Well, if they want to help, where can they find you, and where can they find Katana?
It's at hackfromacave.com. And that's the best place to go and get in touch with me through there. And there's a forum and all that good stuff.
Sweet.
So.
Anything else you want to mention?
No, nothing.
You own
nothing
noobs.
popping. Yeah, yeah.
Trust your technologist. All right, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Running your own server doesn't have to cost a fortune. Domain.com virtual private servers start at just $34.95 a month and include all of the tools that you need to manage any size website. In fact, our own site, Hak5.org, is running on one now. Take charge with cPanel, Plesk, or even SSHN with root access. As a Hak5 viewer, you can get 15% off your order at checkout when you use coupon code HAK5. Got a great idea? It all starts with a great domain, domain.com.
So Joe, Fox News tells me that the internet is over. We've come to the end of the internet as it is, right?
I thought I saw that cartoon about 10 years ago.
Yeah?
That I've clicked through the internet, I'm now at the end.
Actually, this is a topic for another conversation, but I know someone that just did the entire IP4 internet. Well, let's talk, that's what we're talking about, right? You're a big proponent of IP6, obviously
Yes.
rocking the : one, the 127.0.0.1 equivalent, if you will.
Yes.
Is Fox News right? Is the internet over?
Well, what we have is there's specific authorities for addresses. IAN is the root authority for address allocation. If you're an international company, if you need big address space, that's where you would get it. So if you're setting up a large server farm that all has to be exposed to the internet, if you set up a new cell phone network or whatever, you have to get these large addresses.
Yeah.
The problem right now is we're 4 days away, based on when you see this, we're 4 days away from IANA having any additional addresses. So the impact from a security perspective is that we should end up seeing a lot of people that are not qualified trying to implement IPv6 networks, which are going to leave big vulnerabilities open because all they do is they turn it on and they're not aware that their firewalls are wrong, their IDSs are wrong, their management tools are wrong. So there's a real impact on the security of a lot of operations if they're not extremely careful during that deployment phase.
Now,
So
a lot of the equipment now, the older equipment doesn't even support this stuff, or just let the IP6 traffic go through, doesn't care.
yeah, there's specific vendors out there that say that they support IPv6 products. Unfortunately, all that means is they've allowed Protocol 41 through, but they don't do any real filtering, any manipulation. It's kind of like saying we support web.
Yeah, who's selling
there's
the good
actually
stuff?
there's actually the IPv6 task force has put together a set of links that talk about IPv6 ready devices, and they've been third-party tested. Yeah. So you can see what versions of the operating systems, router, switches, software truly supports IPv6. Voice over IP is an example. A lot of the products don't support IPv6, so if you're expecting to use that to do end-to-end for your organization,
like SIP phones
like
and
SIP
stuff?
phones and
Yeah.
such. So there's a lot of implications of this, but from the running out of address standpoint, we have the security problem. Now we've only run out of it from the IANA. At this point,
there's more than just IANA. There's RIPA. There's like all of the. Or am I confusing?
Those are called RIRs.
Okay.
Those are regionals.
Right, because
So
all of the different countries have their own RIR.
right, and each of them have their burn rate that they're going through. Some burn rates, as an example, we're expecting September, October in the North America to be out of addresses.
So you're saying that it could be potentially like North America runs out of addresses, but there's some like island nation that totally has addresses and is making bank off of them, right?
Actually, Africa is an example.
Okay.
It has a slow burn right now of addresses.
So when we run out, will people just start buying IP addresses from Africa?
Well, that actually messes up the routing tables even worse. As we have more larger address space, as we have larger address spaces, and we break it down to smaller, the core routers that have to route this information, those routing tables become larger and larger. So we could be talking 10 gig, 15 memory gig, 20 gig within
and
routers, and
the routers just have to keep in memory so they know.
Makes it very difficult to keep in memory. So routability is potentially a problem.
Do they not do the same thing with IP6? Is there not like, anything starting with, this hex is, this continent, and then the next hex, this country, or whatever? Is there the same kind of like, where even like, where we can identify something by, the IP address, can kind of geolocate it to the area, maybe the city-ish, depending on the ISP? That
was actually something that occurred only within the last 10 years. Prior, an address can be allocated any place in the world.
Really?
Yes.
So,
So now
lots of cable companies use that. Like, ESPN has like some service, or during the Olympics there were different traditional television carriers that would like broadcast their stuff online, but only if you're in the U.S. and they know you're in the U.S. because of your IP address.
Right.
Of course, we would just set up proxies or whatever you will. But is
Really?
that the you know how hackers are. But would does that apply to IP6?
Actually, the same things apply. It's just not as many proxies out there for IPv6 yet.
Oh, that you know of. All right.
So anyway, what we're seeing is we're going to see an exhaustion at the carrier level next. So we basically go from IANA to, in North America, Aaron, and then the carriers. The big impact for this is if you're a company and you're doing business, you're stuck with that carrier because those addresses become bound to the carrier.
Yeah,
Which makes it very difficult.
For example, Shannon's about to move to the Bay Area, and she's going to need to get high-speed internet through Comcast or whoever, right? Once they're exhausted, is she going to have a problem even getting online?
Well,
Are they gonna gnat her?
Comcast is unique. Comcast has already started their process of rolling out IPv6. So what you'll typically get, depends on where in the country you are, you're going to get by default an IPv6 address, and you'll be tunneling IPv4 over IPv6 to gateways to connect out to the IPv6. The impact of this is things like DNSSEC can't truly map with the IPv4, IPv6.
If that's the case, how do you, if that was the case, if you got one of those where it's like they only give you an IP6 address, if you've got like one of those older Linksys, wireless routers, I mean, what is that going to say?
This is what the vendors love. They get to upgrade it.
Oh, great. Well, that's probably how they'll spin it.
Yeah, well, that's essentially what's happening, is we're seeing most of the vendors haven't been supporting IPv6 up to this point, and it's going to require a complete change out of each of the carriers' end devices, their customer premise equipment.
Right. The whole IPv6 thing. I mean, it's big enough for just us geeks to grok, if you will. How is this going to be sold to consumers? Do you have any idea if there's like some sort of like initiative to brand it a certain way and dumb it down so that the general the average American understands why they need to update their cable modem or their router or whatever it may be?
Yeah, that's why they call it the new internet.
Oh, the new internet.
To get onto the new internet, you get to replace your routers and switches and
not to be confused with
software.
Internet 2.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what we've seen over the last couple of years. But again, this could potentially cause some problems. Yahoo just announced that when they go to dual stack, which means IPv4 and IPv6.
Yeah, we talked about that, the bonded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What we're going to end up seeing is a lot of customers, because their premise equipment doesn't truly support IPv6 or their DNS doesn't support IPv6, that they won't be able to get to Yahoo as an example. So, and it's only small, it's like 1% or a small percentage of it, but that's a million people.
Right, there's going to be lots of fragmentation.
And that's going to happen also for a lot of businesses if they don't have a dual stack environment running v4 and v6.
Now what happens when we run out and there are companies, organizations, whatever, that have, because back when they were just throwing IP address, here I have a /16, whatever. What do you predict is going to happen with the people that have an abundance of IP4 that aren't really using them all?
There is a market right now on eBay being formed.
Oh, so eBay is going to be the place, or is there like a new market for
There's a /16 going for $1 million at this point if somebody wants to buy it.
So that's the going rate right now, today?
That was a rental property. So think about the IPv6.
Oh, you rent the IP?
Yes, you rent it. You don't buy it.
Yeah.
So it's expected that IP rates are probably going to raise pretty heavily for IPv4. We're talking maybe $35 per IP address.
Okay.
As a rental.
Wow.
Yeah. Per year.
Okay.
So if you're a new business or if you want to just experiment.
That could get expensive quick.
Yeah,
especially when you're talking about with carriers where you need an IP for all of your customers. What about all of those unused IP? There's tons of IP addresses that aren't being used. What do they call them, like bogan IPs, Right, bogans are basically address ranges that haven't been allocated. All those addresses are now going to be allocated. Except for where can I not use?
As an example, 1.1.1. Okay, 1.1.1 actually really can't even be allocated.
Why not?
Because apparently for the last 15 years, in a lot of the routing books to do experiments and to try networks and such, people have been using those addresses. So right now that address range is dirty. This wasn't in the RFC. So we have 10 address blocks that are dirty that actually have websites set up on them. They have email sites set up, and people aren't moving off of that property.
Oh, so you're saying people are squatting on...
They're squatting on 10 major
Can you
blocks
just do
right
that?
now.
Can you just squat an IP on the internet and just be like, I'm taking this, I've claimed this, and if somebody else tries to, it's like...
Apparently they've succeeded.
Wow. And then as long as your IP makes it into the routing table, it's like you've just... it's very akin, it's the cyber... It seems like the cyber equivalent to being considered like a... oh gosh, I'm so forgetting the term here. Sovereignty. It's kind of like sovereignty. It's if everybody agrees that you exist and you're identified as such, then you are.
It's going to be a real challenge. I mean, think about all the potential problems. Somebody can park themselves, if they get routability, they can park themselves in somebody else's address range. What does that mean?
Well,
that means security problems because now, say I park within your IP range and I set up a, spam bot. You're the one that the law enforcement's going to come visit to say, why are you spamming?
Right.
So you have those kind of things.
And is, what was it, something electric, the company you like for IPv6?
Hurricane Electric.
Hurricane Electric.
Great company.
Is it still your favorite?
Yes, actually I have a hosted web server on it at this point. They have dual stack. By the way, this isn't an advertisement. I don't work for the company, but they have a dual stack. They have the most connections. They support multicast internally. They have big pipes. They have lots of locations.
So you're saying it's easy to get online through them, though, right?
Very easy to get online and very good to host on them because most of the ISPs that we've talked to don't even have IPv6 hosting services, which means that cell phones and other devices, as they start being IPv6 only devices, people aren't even going to know that their customers can't even get to them because the IPv4 and IPv6 are totally separate. So this is...
Does that not cause problems if like everybody goes, oh, well, the easiest way is to go through Hurricane Electric, and then boom, we've got an IP6, we're online, good to go, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, where a lot of vendors don't do that right now.
What do you prefer as far as the vendors are concerned for IPv6 hardware? Not just, oh, it works with it, but what do you like?
Yes, I have a modified version of Linksys.
Oh, you're using just Linksys router now?
Linksys, modified Linksys, and I'm also the OpenWRT with all the IPv6 patches. Not flawless, but it's getting there. I've also used the Mac Extreme, I guess is what it's called, from Apple. Unfortunately, it was being rebooted or forced itself to reboot and crash every day, and they finally patched that problem after 8 months.
Nice.
Thank you, Apple.
Well, that's, yeah.
I've also played with a lot of the Cisco equipment with newest iOS, which is real good, and also Juniper
expensive.
Juniper with the current iOS. I understand D-Link has a new IPv6 router. I have not tested it yet, and a lot of the no-names don't have it at all.
Right. I'm a big fan of like your untangles, your mono walls, your smooth walls, your pfSense. Have you played with any of those?
Yeah, they've all started implementing IPv6, and some of them are more mature than others. Monowall is pretty cool.
Monowall?
Yeah.
I've got to...
Smooth wall,
I need to bring... Well, I've used Smooth, and I'm using Untangle right now, and I need to... just got a new subscriber line from Comcast. I need to bring it online with IP6, and right now it's running on a Linksys, and if it's a piece of plastic, it's a toy, is the way I feel. I mean, especially when you're doing, hundreds of clients and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So,
we'll have to set you up with multicast soon.
Oh, that's going to be fun. Yeah. So, is it overblown in the media?
No.
Fox News, I'm sure you saw the article that everybody was raving about.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they nicely just kind of swept everything under the rug with a update to the article. I didn't get to see the good version, unfortunately.
The concern is that if people are doing business online and they don't support IPv6, that customers aren't going to be able to get to them. Okay, so there's an economic value to move at this point. That's the business justification. Because, as an example, if I go to your website and you're only IPv4 and I'm IPv6, my transition down to IPv4 is going to make your website slower than somebody else's website. So all of a sudden that becomes a problem, especially when you're trying to serve up a page that's half a second or 1 second or whatever. So you have the transition cost from a performance standpoint, and also if you have the other issue of people not even being able to get to you.
I'd imagine if corporations are making these kinds of big changes, there's also I wonder how that ties in with the other like political concerns about things like net neutrality, and how IP6 plays a role in that.
It actually has a big implication because companies that don't support IPv6 carriers, there could be some concerns that if they don't support full IPv6, multicast, things like that, that they're not actually abiding by net neutrality. But I'm not a net neutrality expert.
Yeah, neither am I, but I just find it fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Joe.
Yeah,
I mean, it's always
always
insightful
good.
to you with some hair now.
Yes! I'm not as reflective.
Yeah, and for any of those that missed, we had a great episode with Joe. You need to go and check it out. We've got links in the show notes. And yeah, fascinating stuff if you're new to IP6. Thanks for breaking it down.
Thanks.
Join modding wizard Ben Heck and friends as they build and modify a host of amazing community-inspired creations. The Ben Heck Show is brought to you exclusively by Element 14, the online store and community for electronics design engineers. In the latest episode, Ben takes the Sega CDX classic gaming system and shrinks it down to make it portable.
So that just about wraps up part 2 of Shmoocon 2011. Thank you so much to everybody that spoke to us, all the fans that came up to us to say, hey, we love that, and the Potters for having us out here. Love Shmoocon. It's good to be on the East Coast, even though it's snowing. But I wanted to let you guys know, if you have the technolust, like Megatron69 does with his kick-ass gaming rig, overclocked of course, go ahead and send your photos over to feedback@hak5.org, and maybe we'll show it on next week's show. Also, wanted to let you know you could subscribe to the show for free, easy. It's a great way to support the show on iTunes, YouTube. Hak5.org/subscribe has all of the details. And there's probably a little announcement I should make about the Hack Shop. It's actually in transit right now because next episode is 826, which means the episode after that is season 9, which means Shannon's in the Bay Area. And as you guys know, Shannon does the Hack Shop, so the Hack Shop's probably in a U-Haul right now. So anyway, hak5.org/store though, you can still order stuff and it'll be shipping right out to you. Get your t-shirts, get your pineapples, all that good stuff. And yeah, this has just been a phenomenal time here at Shmoocon. I couldn't be happier about the way that everything went, and yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, comments, you know you can find our show notes over at hak5.org, and you can email us feedback@hak5.org. And until next week, I'm Darren Kitchen in the freezing cold, looking forward to getting back to the West Coast. Trust your technolust. Shannon, eat snowball. I hit the lens. I can't go
Get
loud in case
excited.
they mono-
This is your
No,
tour.
I got loud and he got angry at me.
All right. Sorry.
Really?
I get excited. So, JP, sorry. I said JC.
Thank you. It's the beard and the hair, right? That's what, yeah, okay.
I was like,
Dot.
3.4, gone.
No, you got to do it Jack Bauer style.
Oh, please.
192.168.536.348. That's how Jack Bauer does it on 24.
Yeah.
gotta fix my pants.
Ah, the blooper reel, okay.